February is Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. We've asked our own Sierra Weiss, our Access and Inclusion Specialist for JCC Association and JCC Maccabi, to present the Devar Torah in recognition of this important observance. I personally want to acknowledge and thank Sierra for the incredible work she's done to lead the JCC Maccabi Access Games for Jewish athletes with intellectual and development disabilities. It's been incredible to watch this pilot flourish under Sierra's leadership, and I'm proud that we have now made access a permanent fixture of every summer's games. Sarah, please come on.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. Well, Devar Torah literally translates to a word of Torah, words of wisdom from our collective Jewish history. Today, I want to share with you all some of my own personal Jewish history. Many years ago, when I was a camper at a Jewish sleepaway camp with an incredible inclusion program for campers with disabilities, I was participating in an activity with my age group and suddenly felt someone jumping on my back. I turned around to find a young man with Down syndrome staring back at me and stood frozen, absorbing the shock of this encounter. He smiled at me excitedly, and it became clear that he was nonverbal. I returned his smile with a blank stare, unsure what to do. Eventually, his counselor came to collect him and explained that he loved meeting new people and just wanted to join in. The rest of that evening, I played the encounter over and over again in my head and felt deeply embarrassed by my reaction. I wondered why, having grown up in a variety of Jewish communities and organizations that boasted being welcoming and inclusive, that this was the first time I had knowingly interacted with a person with a disability and had been so unprepared. Wanting to learn to feel more comfortable around people with disabilities, I took the next opportunity I had that summer to switch electives and do a joint sports program with the inclusion campers. I share this story because I think a lot of people probably feel the way I did when they first meet someone with a disability. There's this fear of, what do I do? What should I say? Will I say the wrong thing? Far too often, we say nothing at all. During that summer, I became comfortable in moments of discomfort and realized that as long as we meet these difficult and unknown moments with a willingness to learn and grow, then we should choose to make mistakes rather than stay silent. After spending the remainder of my time at camp that summer deeply involved in the inclusion program, I learned a very simple and profound truth, that we are all people who want to belong, people who want to feel welcomed and understood. What I learned that summer snowballed into every aspect of my life and life's work, and is what has brought me here today. This is what we do in the JCC movement. We create communities and programs in which people get to belong and feel welcome. The value of inclusion is the backbone of this movement, and a value that we need to continuously address and reassess to make sure we are meeting the needs of the ever-changing landscape of our communities proactively. When I started in this role almost 4 years ago, I was aware that there was so much amazing work around inclusion already happening across the JCC movement. Many JCCs host integrated summer programs and preschool classrooms, have day programs and evening activities for adults with disabilities, or support community members with disabilities at important transition points in their lives, whether preparing for a baby's vote or to find their first job. While many JCCs have been running programs like these for many years, some are just getting started and others are searching for the right first step. Recognizing that JCCs are at various stages of their journey towards being fully inclusive, our first priority was to develop a shared language and communal commitment that would unify the movement's inclusion work. Myself, alongside JCC Association colleagues and consultants, JCC movement professionals, inclusion professionals across the Jewish professional landscape, and people with lived experience of disability, developed a collection of 8 guiding principles on inclusion through which our inclusion work to take root. Wholeness, inherent worth, interdependence, accessibility, inclusive education, act with intention, positive work environment, and justice, each with a Hebrew counterpart that reflects our Jewish values. During Jewish Disability Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month, otherwise known as JDAM, in February of 2022, JCC Association's 8 guiding principles on inclusion were first shared with the JCC movement. Since, hundreds of JCC professionals have participated in trainings related to the guiding principles and have brought them into their own work and JCC community. It has been amazing discovering all the places in which these principles have taken root, from the expected updates I get from inclusion professionals who use them as a guide for staff professional development and training for their local JCCs, to finding them tacked to the forecourt of a random office in a JCC when I go for a site visit. In an effort to make the guiding principles themselves as accessible as possible and to use them to model accessibility practices, we have also developed multiple means of interacting with them. Most recently, I had the privilege to work with a talented artist who herself is an active member of her local JCC community and is a person with disabilities, to commission art pieces to accompany 8 of the 8 guiding principles on inclusion. On screen and at your seat, you will find the signature poster, which incorporates images from each of the 8 art pieces in the visually powerful and profoundly meaningful shape of a stained glass window, reminiscent of a blooming flower. Each of these posters have a level of thoughtfulness and intricacy far beyond what a projector or small postcard can showcase, and I encourage each of you to take time during a break in the board meeting or when you return home to scan the QR code on the back of the postcard and spend time with each of the posters and the various resources that accompany them. These posters create another way for JCCs and their communities to uphold the value of inclusion, both through creating a mode of accessibility to interact with the principles for community members, and by showcasing their commitment to these values by hanging them in their community centers. It is through this beautiful stained glass window and the principles they represent that we should consider all our inclusion efforts and create a more inclusive JCC movement. Building on the foundation these principles have provided, the continued work around inclusion at JCCs across North America is flourishing. Now that the foundation is firmly built and the shared values of language is blooming, the work is continuing to grow and develop in deep and meaningful ways. In this past year alone, we regularly convened inclusion professionals from across the JCC movement in peer community meetings where they were able to ask questions, share accomplishments, and connect with colleagues across North America. Together with my colleagues in the Sheva Center, we hosted the inaugural JCC Movement Early Childhood Inclusion Summit, which convened over 100 participants over 2 days on Zoom in 6 incredible sessions on the various topics at the cross-section of early childhood education and inclusion. And this summer, we completed a 3-year pilot of JCC Maccabi Access, a JCC Maccabi experience for athletes with intellectual and developmental disabilities, which I am proud to report will now become a permanent part of the JCC Maccabi experience due to the unanimously positive feedback we receive year after year and the unique and meaningful opportunity it provides to the Access athletes and their families, as well as JCC Maccabi as a whole. As we continue to build on the foundation these 8 guiding principles have provided, it is my vision that all JCC professionals, not just those who have inclusion somewhere in their title, will view themselves as inclusion professionals as well. Because, like the 8 guiding principles, though they are all unique and important in their own right, true inclusion is achieved when we are brought together. Next month, we will celebrate JDAM with so much work to recognize and celebrate since the inauguration of the 8 guiding principles 3 years ago. It is a wonderful time to engage in programming about the lived experience of those with disabilities, to gather resources, learn how to better include and welcome people with various differences into our communities, and to celebrate the role people with disabilities play in our lives and communities, and uplift them as leaders in this important work. JDAM is a catalyst for the work we must do year-round. As we approach February and look to the year ahead, in your roles as JCC Association board members and proud participants in the JCC movement, I encourage all of you to see yourselves as advocates and emissaries of our work on inclusion, because to achieve full and meaningful inclusion in the JCC movement, it will require all of us working together. Thank you.
The work that we do, I guess my best words to express it, love is the light. And I appreciate, Sierra, your message. Thank you.